Let's listen to this, can we? Just to set the mood.
No. Banging beats, getting broads, then we're gonna go trick-or-treating with the feet in the feet. Stab a bitch in the face, get your eyes on your blades. Here we go with Master
That was terrible.
Welcome to A Cast with No Name. We're your hosts. I'm Jay.
And I'm Matt.
This is episode 27. This episode will discuss our top 5 Halloween movies. Favorite and or best movies. Best Halloween movies. But first, don't forget to visit our website, castwithnoname.com, where you can write to our email, comment on episodes, all that good stuff. So, continuing our scary movie month.
Yes.
Themed-ish.
The season is upon us.
Yes. The weather's crisper. The
Oh,
pumpkin spice lattes are flowing.
I love it.
So
I love sweater weather.
Yeah, we
It's
talked
comfy.
about. Yeah, it is comfy. It just makes you want to curl up with a DVD.
You hear strange noises at night, like me and you just heard. What the hell was that?
Yeah, those are two owls banging it out, and which is okay.
It's okay.
It's a circle of life.
When love is there, you just let it go.
It's fucking weird.
It is weird. The noises were crazy. But yeah, how did you make your top 5?
I
didn't really talk about
so
criteria or whatever.
I had trouble with this because I'm not a
I know you're not.
big horror guy. So I was going back and forth. I thought, I was like, well, it'll just be movies that I typically watch around Halloween. But then I didn't want to do that because I know eventually we're going to be doing a top 5 favorite horror films.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want those to end up being the same movies that I talked about. So I was trying to find something different. And then I was like, well, maybe let me Google movies that take place in and around Halloween. And it was a bunch of movies I've never even watched, like Trick or Treat and some like just random movies I just never watched because I've never been interested in seeing because I'm not a big horror fan. So the way I went about it, I have them ranked, I think, in far as order of importance.
Okay.
But
Importance to what? Halloween?
somewhat. So all the movies I picked take place around Halloween.
All right.
But they're not like some of them I don't even really consider Halloween movies. Like there's one on my list that for some reason I associate with Christmas, but it doesn't take anywhere. And I think it's mainly the music. But so what I did was I just kind of picked 5 movies that took place around Halloween. I don't necessarily watch during Halloween, but take place around Halloween and kind of give me that fall feeling.
Okay. Fair enough.
So it's kind of all over the place. But when I made my top 5, I did notice they are in different genres. So that's kind of, they take place around Halloween, and there's something there for everybody. So,
right.
But yeah. So it's kind of just a
mishmash
and just a cop out of a list.
That's fine. That's fun.
And we can go into honorable mentions. I mean, like E.T. That's probably my favorite quote unquote movie that I watch around Halloween.
Gotcha.
I always watch it around Halloween. I already had E.T. on my top 5 Alien movies.
Right.
I didn't want to talk about that again, and there's only one scene in there that takes place on Halloween.
Right, correct.
Everything else is just, it just happens to be there.
Right.
It's not really integral to the story. So
it's a good plot, like a plot scheme, because it's an alien. You can dress him up.
Yeah.
He can go out into the world, explore a little bit. No one's going to know the better.
Yeah, it's kind of like a bit that they did.
It's a bit.
So, but yeah.
Cool. Well, I made my list kind of how you originally thought you were going to make yours. The movies that I normally watch around Halloween, that I and you're right. I know we're doing a top 5 horror movies, so I didn't all of them aren't scary. Actually, none of them are particularly scary, but I do watch them around Halloween, and it's the only time I really watch them. I don't watch them any other time of the year.
Yep.
So I just my top 5 favorite movies that I watch during the month of October.
Okay.
That's pretty much it.
I like it.
One of them has absolutely nothing to do with Halloween at all. It's not even in the movie.
That's all right.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah. What are you gonna do?
Yep. No, that's all right. Well,
yeah.
Do you want to start?
Sure.
Okay, cool.
I'll start. Number 5, a family movie.
Yes.
Casper.
Hey. That happens to be my number 4.
No shit.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, and this is the movie that I said that for some reason I think it's like I associate it with a Christmas movie. And
oh, really?
But it doesn't take place during Christmas. No. It leads up to the night of Halloween.
It does. Yeah.
But I think it's the score.
It's very good.
Yeah.
It's really good.
James Horner.
James Horner, yep.
And overall, I think the movie is a lot better than what it should have been. Because it is a lot better. If it was made now, it would be god awful horrible. But yeah, I think it's the music and the story of Casper's death. He's sledding. There's a lot of winter elements associated with it. So I think that's kind of why I associated it with a little bit with
well,
Christmas.
It's the whole scene where she sets up his room and it feels like the morning of Christmas. Mm-hmm. So I see what you're saying. Yeah, that makes sense.
So why'd you have it as your number 5?
It's one of the movies I watch around October all the time, and it's nostalgic. It was one of my favorite movies growing up as a kid mainly because I had a crush on Christina Ricci, 10 years old. Who didn't? But it always made me laugh. It was entertaining. I liked the story itself about even though you're not a ghost as like a young kid, the story of trying to get the girl, that always resonated with me. And it's just a fun movie. It's funny. At the time, the effects themselves were like, I wouldn't say ahead of their time, but
they were pretty good.
But being a 10-year-old, there weren't a lot of movies out there that looked like that.
Mm-hmm. And I think that was because that came out in '95.
Yeah,
and it didn't. It was obviously computer animation, but I'm thinking this was probably the next movie that incorporated it as much with live action as much as Who Framed Roger Rabbit did.
Yeah,
I mean there was probably Cool World, a couple other movies that had animation involved in it, but to the extent interacting with the actors as much, the live action actors, I think it was probably one of the next ones that came out.
Yeah, and there were CGI characters too, not 2D drawn animation. So, because this is around the same time, Toy Story came out in '95.
Yep.
So yeah, not a lot of movies out there with CGI effects incorporated in the movie. So, it was pretty unique in that aspect of it. Mm-hmm. The movies that remind me of this movie in terms of like the tone and the family aspect of it was like Dennis the Menace. Mm-hmm. Remember that movie with Walter Matthau and Christopher Lloyd?
Yep.
And Richie Rich. Kind of like those PG movies that it was live action and there was a star in it.
Yeah.
And it kind of tried to capitalize on that like it's a movie about kids, it's for kids. It's marketed towards kids. There's not really a lot of movies like that anymore, but in the early to mid-90s, there's a lot of movies that came out.
Yeah, because you had Page Master, you had just a bunch of those kinds of movies that were just, all over the place.
Well, I think at that time, Pixar wasn't a thing, and the Disney Renaissance was happening. I think just studios are trying to go for that same market, but not the 2D animation route.
Yeah,
so they were trying to come up with
years to be able to create to where you could start churning these out once a year.
Yeah.
And
Tom and Huck, Adventures of Huckleberry Finn.
Yeah, Man of the House, all the Jonathan Taylor Thomas movies.
It was coming out all the JTT movies. Yeah, that's right. I remember Wild America. Do you remember that movie with Devin Sawa, who's in Casper, by the way?
Yep.
Makes a cameo. But yeah, those are the movies that we grew up on that were tailored towards us. They were coming out all the time, and this one just jumped out all the time as one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, you touched on it a little bit. Casper, the ghost trying to get the girl. And I made a reference that this movie is a lot better in what it should have been, just because it touches on, I mean, it has the first love, like that kind of explores that feeling. But it also deals with a lot of heavy stuff.
Oh,
like, grief, letting
death.
loved ones go. Yeah. Death, what it means to die, and not, I mean, sacrifice. I mean, it deals with a lot of heavy themes, and it's all mixed in the same movie with fart jokes and belching and just slapstick comedy and everything else.
Lowbrow humor for sure.
Yeah. But with the subject matter that it deals with, there's a lot of important lessons that I think that that movie incorporated that I think elevated it quite a bit.
Yeah.
And the score, I think, that's every time I think of this movie, that's the first thing I think of. And just so I'm sure everyone listening to this has seen Casper, but James Horner's score is amazing. Like a kid's movie, that like some Disney whatever movie geared towards kids other than a superhero movie. I mean, you're not going to have that kind of a score.
No.
Associated with that movie.
It amps it up pretty good.
Yeah. But
is this your clip?
Yep, that's my clip.
All right, let me.
So
that's good.
Yeah,
it's really good.
And I mean, that's Casper's lullaby, and that's kind of like the theme of the movie, because he explains the story of his death to that song and everything else. But that's the first thing I think of, is that piano, just the 2-note or
it's
the 3 or 4 note. It's very, very good. And
do you think they thought that they were going to get James Horner to do this when they pitched the movie?
I don't know if Steven Spielberg, like, he owed him a favor or something, but I looked at James Horner's record as far as like what he made music for everything. And I mean, the other
up to that point.
Yeah, I mean, up to that point, past that point. I mean, he did Ransom, he did Casper, he did.
This is before Titanic, 97, where he just kind of took over.
Oh yeah,
he was in everything.
I mean,
I guess before he was the go-to composer.
Yeah. And there's very few composers, I feel like, that kind of gave that effort, or still give that effort to a movie as small as what this would have been. And the music for that movie, I think, is just phenomenal. Like, it didn't need to be in this movie.
I know. Yeah.
But he nailed it. And but he was also able to go, like, the other score with this film, you have the spooky elements, and it kind of seems more Halloween-y and more haunting and everything else. So he has that wide range, but him being able to handle that score and then move into a tone that's more sentimental or more dramatic nails it.
Yeah, it's one of the most well-balanced family movies. Because I watched it with my kids, Liam and Lincoln. And as I'm watching it, I started to think, wow, this is some heavy thematic material that I'm putting these guys through right now. I'm like, do I really want to watch this with my 5 and 7-year-old? He's talking about dying in a sleigh accident, and then, Bill Pullman's wife comes, down from heaven, and Liam asked me, is she an angel? And then he starts asking me about, like, did Casper die? And I'm like, oh, my God, I don't want to have this conversation right now with him. I wasn't expecting that. Pay attention to the fart jokes and the stinky jokes, all that stuff that you're supposed to laugh at.
And, and it does great story-wise, because it talks about, and not to get into spoilers or anything, because if you haven't seen it, go ahead and watch it with your family or just watch it by yourself. But, I mean, you have Casper dies as a child, and his father can't handle the loss, so he dedicates the rest of his life as an inventor to create a machine that would hopefully bring his son back to life. But at the same time, you have Christina Ricci's father, Bill Pullman. Christina Ricci's character lost her mother. Bill Pullman lost his wife, and he is a ghost. He was a therapist beforehand, and now he's a ghost psychiatrist or a ghost therapist. And just for the simple trying to connect with his wife again at the expense of the relationship with his child.
Yeah.
And, deals with a lot of heavy things.
Yeah.
But it handles it very, very well, but it doesn't undercut it or gloss over it. I mean, they hit the notes that they need to hit with that movie, and I think it's
well done, and the performance is really good. Bill Pullman does a great job of being that like bumbling kind of oaf, or just kind of being Bill Pullman.
Yeah.
And then when his wife comes down and he turns into like dramatic actor Bill Pullman, where he just acts with his eyes, and I'm like, Jesus, this guy knows how to act pretty good.
Yep.
And it comes out of left field in a movie like this, where you're just not expecting it, and especially watching it over, being older with kids, like the whole, Casper's dad dedicating his life after he died to bring him back. You start to like, oh man, it starts to hit harder now that you have kids and everything. When before, when you watch them when you're 10, you just kind of gloss over that. You're just focused in on, hey, Casper, hopefully he gets a chance with Christina Ricci. Maybe he can get the girl at the end of this. Yeah.
And not too many kid movies. I mean, I don't watch a lot of kid films. I mean, other than Pixar films or maybe Disney animated films. A lot of them, the exception of Pixar, a lot of them don't make elements for adults to be able to grasp onto and enjoy at the same time, along with their children. It's usually one-sided.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I love the cameos in this.
Oh yeah,
there's some great stuff. I got a clip here that is just probably my favorite one.
I'm gonna kill you, your mama, and all her bridge-playing friends.
You think you got it tough? I got a facelift. There was one just like it underneath.
So, if you haven't seen the movie, there's a scene where Bill Pullman gets possessed by the ghostly trio, and he's washing his face. He looks in the mirror, and then he transforms into Clint Eastwood, and he says that line that I appreciate more as I get older because it's hilarious. I'm going to kill you, your mama, and all her bridge-playing friends. I never know what he said when I was younger. Like, what did he say? And I didn't know how to turn on subtitles at the time. But then you realize what he says, and it's just funny. And then with Mel Gibson there.
Yeah.
Or he's just
like,
devilishly handsome Mel Gibson. And then obviously the Crypt Keeper for our youngins out there. There's a show called Tales from the Crypt that was immensely popular in the early 90s. I think if kids saw it now, they wouldn't even know what that is.
Yeah, it's kind of episodic TV show, just more horror based, just shorter stories, like half-hour episodes.
Anthology kind of stuff.
And, Rodney Dangerfield. You had more. He was also in The Mirror. But then you had Dan Aykroyd making a cameo.
Here we go.
Oh.
You ready for this one?
Yeah.
That's another one of my favorite cameos here.
Who are you gonna call? Someone else.
I mean, that's a nice touch.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I mean, I remember watching that the first time, because Ghostbusters, obviously.
Yeah.
One of my faves. And then just seeing that character again, I was like, whoa. And of course, that made me think, it's like, is he in the same, not same universe, because I wasn't thinking in terms of that. He lives in the same world as Casper.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, the amount of cameos that they had for that movie, again, way too many for that. It's such a random movie. And like, oh yeah, I was able to get Mel Gibson and Rodney Dangerfield. And
well, like you said, Amblin produced this movie, right? Amblin Entertainment.
Yep.
So maybe Steven Spielberg just called on some favors.
Yeah.
They didn't do it for Brad Sieberling. I don't think he did anything up to that point.
I don't think so.
Yeah. He followed up with Lemony Snicket's and have you ever seen The Land of the Lost, the Will Ferrell, Danny McBride?
I have not.
It's awful.
Your sister enjoys it.
It is one of the dumbest, least funny Will Ferrell movies out there.
She wants me to watch it, so I will be watching it sometime soon.
All right, well,
And
I pray for your soul.
She had it on at she has movies on whenever she falls asleep.
Yeah.
So I got this big bright blinding light in my face when I'm trying to sleep, and Land of the Lost was on I think a couple nights ago or whatever.
Right.
And she's like, "Oh, did you ever see this?" And I'm like, "No." She's like, "Oh, it's pretty good. We'll have to watch it." I'm like, "All right."
Yeah.
So,
Oh, you're being nice.
yeah.
Well, just be a good husband and watch it with her.
Yeah. The things I do for your sister.
I know.
I'm a saint.
You are. That to her credit, it is a good movie to fall asleep to. There you go.
It's the best movie to fall asleep.
That's right. It is. And I also like here's this joke here from the movie that would not play well today, but I appreciate it because this is the 90s.
I feel like Oprah on hiatus.
You look like Oprah on hiatus.
Now, it's small, but an Oprah fat joke. I don't know if it would do well in a kiddie movie nowadays.
Why
What do you think,
fat
Jay?
shame?
Exactly.
Why do you fat shame?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Well, she's too powerful now.
She is now. She is
Back
powerful.
then, she just had her TV show.
I know.
She wasn't billionaire.
Oprah
Yeah.
building schools.
Pushing
in every
Dr.
continent.
Oz and Dr. Phil
Dr.
and all
Phil.
these other people that aren't real fucking doctors.
Well, Dr. Oz is running for Senate in Pennsylvania.
Not anymore, I don't think.
Oh, God.
I think he got his ass handed to him.
Oh, did he?
I think so.
Oh. I don't follow enough to really care.
But yeah,
It's a good movie.
Yeah. So that's your number 5?
That's my number 5.
All right.
Wow, I didn't think we were going to talk about Casper for 20 minutes.
Yeah, well, that was my number 4. So
Okay, cool.
my number 5
Yeah.
is, so I ended up, and I didn't do this on purpose, it just happened to be this way. Each of my ones are different genres. So Casper was my family comedy.
Okay.
Centered around Halloween. My number 5 is The Crow. And
Ooh.
and I watched this quite a bit when I was younger. The Crow, if you're not aware, it's a 1994 film starring Brandon Lee, the son of Bruce Lee. It was Brandon Lee's final film. It's based on a comic book. It's pretty much an action revenge action film.
Yep.
And what happens is in the first 5 minutes you learn Brandon Lee and who plays a character called Eric Draven.
You with the names.
Me with the names.
Jesus.
And so Eric and his fiancee Shelley on Devil's Night, which is the night before Halloween, a gang breaks in and they go to quote unquote evict Shelley, his fiance, and they start messing up her apartment. They beat her and they end up raping her. And then Eric comes home and then they see him. They kill him. So both of them die. 1 year later, Eric comes back from the dead.
Yep.
To exact revenge. So
Through the Crow.
Through the Crow.
That's right.
So based on a comic book, and I picked this one because it's very 90s.
It is.
It's on the cusp of, I mean, some of the action is dated, but it's a good, if you want a movie that takes place around Halloween, has some Halloween elements, it's just a good revenge.
It is.
Action, shoot 'em up movie.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
but it has Brandon Lee, Ernie Hudson, and Michael Wincott, who...
Love Michael Wincott.
Yep. He was in Nope recently.
Yep.
I think that was the only thing he's been in.
Since The Crow.
Yeah, since The Crow. But it's got a very good gothic atmosphere.
Yeah.
It makes... it's a very dark city. It rains there all the time. It's very moody. I have probably arguably one of the best movie soundtracks of the 90s, alongside Days Confused, Boogie Nights, Forrest Gump, The Bodyguard, and Lion King.
Oh, you're a Bodyguard fan, huh?
Hey, who isn't? And if you're not, you're a fucking communist.
I think it's the best-selling soundtrack of all time. I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, the action and the editing is a little bit dated. Mm-hmm. They do what I like to call slow motion of nothing, which is it's the typical 90s or 80s, like when someone pops up out from the table and they're in slow motion.
Oh yeah,
like you're standing up in slow. Like when you think about it, it's just a little ridiculous.
Right.
But yeah, it's fun. The acting is a little like it kind of borders on cartoonish, but a lot of that cartoonish acting is mainly belonging to the gang members, which I think works at times. Some other times it might come off a little odd, but they're evil people. They're not
not nice.
So, but no. it works with the overall setting. But yeah, you have Ernie Hudson. He plays a local police officer that was on the scene when they found the couple that had been murdered, and it's pretty good.
I love Ernie Hudson.
Yeah, he's great.
And it's got the guy from the Warriors that is so unique. I'm looking up his name right now. Oh, David Patrick Kelly.
Yeah, the Warriors.
Yes, that guy. He's just weird. Mm-hmm. He's one of those he's like Brad Dourif, where he's just weird.
He is. He's a great character actor. Yeah. And actually, I have a clip with the scene just to kind of put you it's a good. I mean, there's action in it, and the action doesn't translate for an audio clip on a podcast because I went through a couple other clips. I was like, what should I pick? But this is pretty. It's pretty good. It kind of sets the tone.
Gotcha.
I remember everything, but I don't know what? Huh? What are you talking about? No. You mean that place downtown? Yeah, I remember her. We needed to put some fear into that little lady. She wasn't going along with our tenant relocation program. Their idiot boyfriend shows up and turns a simple sweep and clear into a total clusterfuck. Who gives a shit? It's ancient history. What? What do you want? What is it? What? Speak to me. Speak! Did you send us these complaints? Come here. Abashed, the devil stood. Does it get you sweating? I know you. I knew you. But you ain't you. You can't be you. We put you through the window. There ain't no coming back. This is the really real world. There ain't no coming back. We killed your dad. There ain't no coming back. There ain't no coming back. There ain't no coming back. Abashed, the devil stood and felt how awful goodness is. He felt how awful goodness is.
Now,
I love David Patrick Kelly.
if you haven't seen this movie, and I should have set this up, that's a poor job on my part, but pretty much he is tied to the driver's seat of his T-Bird, and that's what his character's name is T-Bird. And
real creative there.
Yeah. And so he's tied to his driver's seat of the car. There's a bunch of explosives in the back that the Crow is putting into the back of the trunk and more or less interrogating him. And he shows T-Bird his face, and that's when he recognizes that it was the same person he killed the year prior. But yeah, such a good actor, and
he's awesome.
And I mean, in the cartoonist portions of it, like when he's with his friends, like T-Bird's with their friends or whatever, they're kind of over the top, but it works because they're all kind of over the top.
Yeah.
But then as the Crow starts going to them one by one, it kind of gets more toned down to where when they start realizing the gravity of the situation.
Right, that they're gonna die here soon.
So, but it's enjoyable. It's a fun action movie. It's got good villains.
I think every guy our age in college had a Crow poster in their college dorm room. Do you think?
Absolutely. I also put the only con other than Brandon Lee dying. The other con that I could think of, this did spawn a bunch of shitty cosplay Halloween costumes because I know I'm guilty of it because I...
Oh, you did it?
Oh, yeah. I did it. I think it was like 8th grade. And, of course, no one else in 8th grade, like maybe one or two other people in my grade
saw the crow.
Everyone else thought I was a mime, like an emo mime.
Yeah, you were
and
mime.
that's the joke because when Brandon Lee is dressed up as the crow, looks badass.
It sure does.
When anybody else, whether that be a normal person dressing up or the sequels that they made to this movie, they look horrible.
Yeah.
And but yeah, you just had a bunch of people dressing up as the crow, and it just
didn't work. Man, I do like the gothic feel of the movie. It feels like Guillermo del Toro directed the movie. But he didn't.
Has a lot of that sense. Feels very much like a very DC kind of city, like like Gotham City could feel like this.
It does.
Which I feel like this city is worse than Gotham, just because there isn't a Batman to keep things in check.
Yeah, there's no daylight in the movie.
Yeah, there isn't.
It's all in the dark. Yep. Yeah, Alex Proyas directed it. I like him. Have you ever seen Dark City?
I have not.
That's good.
Another gothic.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's like a film noir gothic mystery. It's pretty cool. It's very underrated. I don't think anybody's really seen it, but it's probably my favorite Alex. I like it a little bit more than The Crow.
Yeah, we had several goth groups in our high school, and they ended up watching this. Then I would see a couple of them wearing Dark City T-shirts.
Oh, okay.
Everything else. So.
All right. Tragedy though. Brandon Lee would have been a huge action star for sure.
Yeah, because he was still fairly young, and he was probably early 30s. I want to say he was probably right around the same age as Keanu Reeves.
28. Yep.
So I feel Keanu Reeves might be a little bit younger than him, but I feel like, especially with some of the Renaissance as far as like the John Wick style movies, The Raid and stuff like, I feel like Brandon Lee could have done some pretty cool stuff. And his acting was, he could have gotten better. Hopefully,
I'm sure.
Hopefully it wouldn't have gone by the way of Steven Seagal, but
yeah. Well, the jump from Rapid Fire, his first movie, to this, you could already see that
he was getting better.
He was getting better at it, yeah.
And yeah, there's only a couple of scenes in The Crow that I'm kind of like, I would have got another take.
Right. His scenes with the little girl are pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he did great in that.
But yeah, so The Crow.
Great pick.
Fun movie. Good action.
It is a great movie.
If it's Halloween, it's October, you want a revenge action movie that's also based on a comic book.
Booyah.
There you go.
There it is. I love it. Well, so my number 4. So we know your number 4, Casper. My number 4 is a movie that has nothing to do with Halloween, Beetlejuice.
Yes.
I don't know why I watch it during Halloween.
It's because it's Tim Burton.
But it's the only time I watch it. That's, yeah. But yeah, it's a movie I love growing up with. I used to watch it all the time when I was a little kid, along with the Saturday morning Beetlejuice cartoon. I don't know if you remember that.
Yep.
On Fox Kids in the morning, early 90s. It's just one of those... It's probably my favorite Tim Burton movie, just because it blends his sensibilities well with an interesting story. The cast is awesome. I love I mean, from Alec Baldwin, Gina Davis, Michael Keaton, Jeffrey Jones, Catherine O'Hara, Winona Ryder. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people in there that I don't know if you could have casted better. And then that who's the guy who plays? I'll look it up here. He's in all these.
Otho?
Yeah, Otho. Crap.
He was in Demolition Man.
That's right. He was. He always played a supporting role in like early 90s, late 80s movies. He's in a bunch of them. Otho. I'm going to get it here. Glenn Shaddix. I swear we've talked about this guy.
Probably.
All right. I'm sure people have seen Beetlejuice. It's been talked about getting remade. I don't know for how long.
Well,
or not remade, but a sequel.
Yeah, Beetlejuice Goes to Hawaii, which I thought they had greenlit it. My brother actually sent me a text, I want to say like 7 years ago. And it was Beetlejuice Goes to Hawaii or something like that. Like Beetlejuice sequel gets greenlit. And I think my response to my brother was like, yeah, we'll see. And
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. And because I think Michael Keaton was back on board and everything else, but obviously it fell through for whatever reason, or it could have just been a rumor that was not even true. But yeah, they talked about doing a sequel for a while, which I think would be fun. I want to see Michael Keaton in a comedy again. I think he's one of the funniest.
He really is.
One of my favorite movies that he did is probably a lot of people's least favorite movies that he did, which is Multiplicity.
I haven't seen that in forever.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
Just because it's for Michael Keatons. Like, what's better than one Michael Keaton?
Right.
Like all of them. But yeah, Beetlejuice is.
It feels like a movie that should have taken place on Halloween because it's so just weird. That world is. I mean, when you go into the afterworld, Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis do the first time, and they meet all these characters with all these awesome makeup effects. It just and there's always pictures of people dressing up on Halloween with all like the characters from that they meet in the waiting room that they're waiting to
the headhunter. And,
yeah. I mean, it's just creative. It's inventive. It's funny. I mean, Michael Keaton is just hilarious. He chews up every scene that he's in. He's just hilarious. And, I mean, the makeup is just, for that time, I mean, the movie won the Oscar for Best Makeup that year.
Because when did that come out? Was that?
88.
88? Mm-hmm. That was right before Batman.
Yep.
And... Yeah, I mean, the scene in the mirror. I remember watching that as a kid and just being in awe because it was one of the first movies I remember to where they actually took you into the afterlife and saw that thing. And I've never wanted to draw a door on a wall and knock 3 times so hard in my entire life. I was like, could that happen?
Right. Yeah, it's very tragic too. You don't realize it when you're watching it as a kid, and I don't even know why. I mean, this movie's PG, but it should be PG-13 for sure. They haven't have an F-bomb in there, and he turns the Roach Motel into a fucking hooker, a whorehouse. I mean, come on,
Adam, why'd you put? I didn't put that in there. He did it.
I didn't do that. Yeah, he gets all horny and he's got a fat gut and he's strutting down the street. This is Michael Keaton thing. Yeah, but the movie starts off with Gina Davis and being her sweet self, and then Alec Baldwin going to the paint store, and they come back and they drive into the river off a bridge and they die, and they don't realize it when they walk back, and then they realize they're dead and they're trapped in the house and they can't get out. It's kind of like, you think about it, that's just a tragic circumstance to be in. You would think they would go to heaven or something, and then why would they be caught between worlds? And when you leave your door, there's a sandworm that's gonna eat you, which is another thing that's so weird.
The sandworm.
The sandworm thing.
Yeah, Beetlejuice is a perfect example of somebody let Tim Burton do whatever the hell he wanted.
Yeah, that's right.
And it worked out very, very well.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of another movie to where he could do whatever he really, really wanted, and it didn't. But I can't really. I mean, maybe Ed Wood. But
that's a pretty good movie, though.
It is a good movie, but it just didn't have mass appeal. So, but it's not as unhinged as what Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice has like all of Tim Burton's art styles and he just threw everything that he liked into that movie, to where I don't think he's really done. I will say that it feels like the most Tim Burton-y film.
Maybe Edward Scissorhands. But Beetlejuice is more Tim Burton-y than even Edward Scissorhands is. I would argue. You're right. I mean, it is. No other person could direct Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Like if you were to watch Beetlejuice right now, and if you didn't say Tim Burton, then you don't watch movies.
And I don't know who else. Yeah, who would have been able to direct it, because Tim Burton can do comedy very well.
Yep. And
he can do horror or just weird very well. I don't know if
he can do weird very well.
Yeah.
He can put emotion behind the weird, where you feel sympathy, like you're watching something weird, but then he'll throw an emotional beat in there that comes out of nowhere.
Yeah,
I was
going to say
Scissorhands.
Beetlejuice felt like a playhouse, which
yeah,
was kind of funny because he directed Pee-wee.
It's like an adult version of
a playhouse
of Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Yep.
Yeah. Can I show a clip of my favorite favorite line in the movie?
Yeah,
makes me laugh every time.
You bunch of losers! You're working with a professional here! Nice fucking model!
I don't know why. It makes me laugh every time. It feels like a line that would just they're like, all right, Mike, just do your thing.
Yep.
And then he just ad-libbed the whole thing. It wasn't scripted.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he went to kick the tree and it just happened to fall over,
right?
And he's like,
yeah,
and just kind of ad-libbed that.
Yeah. But it's just it's a good story. It's got a nice ending to it. It ends so weird, where he's trying to marry Winona Ryder's character Olivia.
Yeah, that and I. Is that just so he could be alive again?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so he can be in the real world like forever. Yeah, it's got some haunting images in it when they open that door to the room of lost souls.
Yeah,
it's like a bunch of floating heads, and it reminded me of when Frodo goes into the swamps and he sees all the dead soldiers, and it's just unsettling. And
isn't that
unnerving.
where the suicides went?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Just a weird thing to throw in there. I mean, they didn't need to have it in the movie. It was just something to
just
creep
more
out
world building,
right? To creep out the audience a little bit more,
and it kind of gave more, I guess, gravity to where when, what's Winona Ryder's character name when she Olivia, when she wanted to off herself and give you
that's true.
That's what happens when you
some heavy themes,
but yeah, all the characters are Catherine O'Hara.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's fantastic. Just the shitty artist.
Yes. Pretentious, shitty artist. Yeah. Moving from New York to the countryside. And Jeffrey Jones.
I know, the exact opposite of her.
Exactly. Like, why did he marry her?
He's
like an arranged marriage or something.
He's bird watching, and the bird's like eating a thing of snot or whatever the fuck it is.
I think it's a dead animal or something. He goes, ugh. It's another Tim Burton thing. Like... Only he would come up with something like that. But, that's Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
It's great. It's funny. It's odd.
Did you show it to the boys yet?
No, not yet. Maybe a couple years.
I was going to say.
Liam's like 9 or 10. I watched it when I was probably 9 or 10.
I want to say, probably, I was 5 when that movie came out. So it was shortly, I want to say, I might have been about 8.
Yeah.
I think when I started watching it.
I can't remember if I watched Beetlejuice first or if I watched the cartoon first.
Oh, I watched Beetlejuice first.
You did?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Because Beetlejuice in the cartoon, he wasn't as, because Beetlejuice in the movie, he's a little bit of a villain.
A little bit, yeah. He wasn't a
villain
likable
at all in the cartoon. He was like...
Yeah, he was like the protagonist.
Yeah, he's like, hey.
Like the comic, not relief, but comic main character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Beetlejuice is an asshole in this movie.
Yeah.
He's not a good character at all. But yeah, so that was my number 4.
Awesome. Well, since my number 4 is Casper, I'll go on to my number 3.
Go ahead.
So my number 3, and keeping with different genres, my number 3 is a sci-fi drama. So my number 3 is Donnie Darko from 2001.
Really?
Yeah.
Is there a Halloween aspect in that movie? I haven't seen it in a long time.
Yeah, it ends on Halloween.
Oh, does it?
Yep.
I still remember.
So another fantastic soundtrack.
Yeah, I do remember that. Mad World. Everybody's.
Yeah, I think it introduced. Yeah, I mean, had The Cure, had Tears for Fears. It had, a lot of stuff. But I remember, I mean, first of all, I mean, great acting.
Yeah.
Everywhere. looking back on it, I mean, Jake Gyllenhaal did a great job acting in it for his day. Obviously, he's gotten a lot better at acting. Some of his stuff kind of seems a little emo-y, but I remember when this movie came out, before the director's cut, that I guess I've never seen the director's cut, but I guess it just spells everything out for you.
Okay.
I remember before the director's cut was released and before people really started watching the DVD extras, no one knew what the fuck happened in this movie. And it sparked a lot of conversation as far as what actually happened, what things meant, because it has a bunch of conversations as far as time travel, parallel universes, God's will or free will, all that stuff. And I remember talking about it with one of my brother's friends just for hours because he had seen it and he's like, "Oh, you haven't seen Donnie Darko yet?" And I think I was a junior in high school.
Yeah.
And I was like, "No." Watched it, but yeah, we'd just talk about like what everything meant and why things happened the way they did, and all of our theories at the time, I feel like were more interesting than when I actually found out what it was.
What it was actually about.
I went and bought the DVD, and they had the philosophy of time travel in the bonus features, to where it was just still screens and of the book. And if you read the passages, it explained everything. It didn't say, "Well, Donnie did that." It wasn't like that. It was just explaining the book that Donnie Darko had read. And I believe in the director's cut, they have excerpts from the book.
Okay.
Like on the screen, then it dissolves into the next. Never seen it, but I saw a clip on YouTube and I was like, "Oh my God, is that oh, fuck me." No. I was like, that's bad.
I remember the old DVD days where the extras would have like what you said, like a page or whatever. It was the least amount of data you could have on a DVD while still having extra features.
But the DVD that I had bought, which I think it might be the same one over there, because I don't know if I ever got it on Blu-ray, I had to end up going online to figure out what it read, because when I put the page on screen, it's like they blew up. You couldn't even see it. It was too pixelated. You couldn't even read it. And I had to go online and read it, which I won't go into that.
Yes, please. Let's go deep into Donnie Darko philosophy.
Because, I mean, I think people still make YouTube videos like, what did Donnie Darko mean? I'm like, how do people not the movie came out like 20 years ago. I was like, how do you not know what happened by this point?
Isn't that crazy? It came out 20 years ago, 2001. I feel old.
But the Jenna Malone.
Yep.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Maggie Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
It's got the sways.
Yep. Patrick Swayze has, Drew Barrymore, Noah Weil.
Yep.
But if you haven't seen it, I would encourage it. If you like sci-fi, kind of thought-provoking-ish kind of stuff, it's a pretty good movie. I almost categorize this as a comic book movie because it was written to be similar, kind of like a comic book character, but because you have the alliterative name, Donnie Darko, which is Peter Parker, Clark Kent. You have a lot of typical alliterative names in comic books, but I learned that on the commentary. As far as that was one of his feels that he wanted to go after. But I have a clip, and this is the one that kind of puts you, like, some of the thought-provoking conversations in the movie, and it does it really well to where once you get done watching the movie, it didn't spell everything out for you, but it also it wasn't ambiguous just for the sake of being ambiguous, because you have some directors who are like, well, it means whatever the audience thinks it means, which I think is a cop-out. The fact that he actually had Richard Kelly, who wrote and directed this, which is his first feature that he wrote and directed, which this movie's really good for a first-time director. The fact that he had this backstory and template and story in place to where I think the original cut that he released, if he was wanting the story to be clear, I think he missed the mark on that, because it was slightly confusing because he didn't spell everything out. But I think that's kind of what made the appeal of Donnie Darko at first, because no one really knew what it meant, but they knew they liked the story and everything else. But
Here we go.
Yep.
Well, each vessel travels along a vector through space-time along its center of gravity.
Like a spear.
I beg your pardon?
Like a spear that comes out of your chest.
Sure, yeah. And in order for the vessel to travel through time, it's got to find a porthole, or in this case, a wormhole, or...
Well, could these portals just appear anywhere, anytime?
I think that's highly unlikely. No, I think what you're talking about is an act of God.
Well, if God controls time, then all time's pre-decided.
I'm not following you.
Like, every living thing follows along set path. And if you could see your path or channel, then you could see into the future, right? Like, that's a form of time travel.
Well, you're contradicting yourself, Donnie. If we were able to see our destinies manifest themselves visually, then we would be given a choice to betray our chosen destinies. And the mere fact that this choice exists would make all preformed destiny come to an end.
Not if you travel within God's channel.
I'm not going to be able to continue this conversation.
Why?
I could lose my job.
So,
Yeah.
that's kind of the conversations that, I mean, those conversations don't pop up too much, but
No, it's a good encapsulation of like the main it's not the story, because you're not really thinking about time travel or time space paradox throughout the movie.
correct.
Really.
And this is really the first instance where they kind of really dive into it a little bit.
Yeah. You're more thinking about why does he keep seeing the vision of the guy in the bunny suit?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yeah.
What's the point of that? Why did they show that plane wreck or whatever?
Yep.
What's the point of all that?
And that was the thing, to where a lot of the conversation was like, oh, well, did the whole movie take place in Donnie Darko's head?
Yeah.
Or was he, because early on in the movie it's revealed he's schizophrenic.
Yep.
And he takes medication.
Mm-hmm.
And so you think, well, is he off his meds? Is this more of you start to question, like, what's happening? Is this reality? Is it not reality?
Mm-hmm.
But it does so in a good way. It takes place in the 80s. Great soundtrack. It's got that fall feel.
It does.
Fall leaves.
Yeah.
And
You just love the 80s soundtrack.
I do.
It's got a lot of synth in it.
It bit me right there. So
Yeah.
I was like, sold.
Yep.
And but yeah, if you're in for a sci-fi thinker and you haven't seen Donnie Darko, recommend it. It's good
Yeah,
acting.
It is good. And I think the fact that it was really good, it kind of hurt Richard Kelly's career, because
Yeah.
he hasn't done shit since. And he did Southland Tales, which is a garbage movie.
Yep.
And then he did
The Box. Yeah. I hadn't seen Southland Tales. I was looking forward to it because that came out in the late 2000s, I believe.
2006. Yeah.
And that had Sean William Scott
And The Rock.
And The Rock. And it came out, horrible reviews. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, I don't want to watch it. And then The Box came out, which The Box is actually based on a short story that I read in college, to where it's like, oh, you push a button and it grants you a wish, but someone you know dies or something like that. And,
Yep. I saw it once. Barely remember it.
Yeah.
It was like
so,
12 years ago.
And yeah, and it's tough because when you put out a movie like that, that's such a powerhouse, and not being able to follow it up, it's, I mean, it's one of those, I mean, who knows how long, because I think he directed that when he was 22 or 24. He was pretty young.
That's crazy.
And he had probably been thinking about that story
For a long time.
A long time. And it's just one of those, you have your whole life to write your first novel, and then you have 6 months to write your second. So.
Yeah. And everyone wanted a sequel to Donnie Darko, and they got S. Darko, which I never saw. Straight to DVD movie. So I'm sure it's not very good.
Yep. I ranked that up as, I was like, whoever decided to greenlight that was probably the same person who decided to greenlight American Psycho Part 2.
With Mila Kunis?
Yeah. Which also never seen.
I've never seen that one either.
Yep. But yeah, it's a good movie, and the soundtrack they pick it feels like a Halloween soundtrack, but none of them are Halloween songs.
It's true.
But it definitely sets the tone of the movie, the song choices that he uses, to where it's kind of melancholy, kind of eerie, slightly.
Were they at a Halloween party?
So
with the guy who got ran over in the bunny suit or whatever.
It was actually at Donnie Darko's house because his older sister was throwing a party.
I haven't seen the movie in like 5 years. So it's been a while.
But yeah, so everyone watch the movie if you haven't seen it. That's my number. What was that?
Number 3?
That was my number 3. What is your number 3?
My number 3 is Creepshow.
I have never seen that.
Never seen Creepshow?
I've never seen Creepshow.
I am a fan of anthology movies. I enjoy them a lot. They're movies that don't really get made anymore. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, they don't really do well at the box office. But they do really well on TV.
Movies, you meaning movies with a bunch of shorter stories in between?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. They typically don't do well at the box office. I think the most successful one ever, adjusted for inflation, is Creepshow.
Okay.
I think. But directed by George A. Romero.
Hey.
Written by Stephen King.
Oh.
Actually, one of the few screenplays he actually wrote. And it's based off of EC Comics, the old school stories with the Crypt Keeper and the Creep, obviously, for this one. And basically, it's just old horror stories, very short. You get an issue and have like 4 or 5 stories in one single comic book issue.
Okay.
And all they wanted to do was, or what George Romero wanted to do, was just kind of put that to film. That was his idea. And Stephen King was a big fan of George Romero from Night of the Living Dead. And he was a big EC comic fan, and they decided to make this movie together.
When did it come out?
1982.
Okay.
So it's old.
Yeah.
So don't...
The same year as Twilight Zone, I believe. Another anthology movie.
That's right. I don't know if it was the same year. I think it was the year after.
Year after?
I think so. Twilight Zone was John Landis' thing. Or John Landis did one of the segments that kind of derailed his career because somebody died.
Yeah.
During the making of it. Me and Jay, 1983, the year after.
Nice, good call.
Look at that. Maybe that was greenlit because Creepshow did okay at the box office, but anyway. So Creepshow, there's no Halloween nights in it at all. There's a bookend. So there's a story to start off, the 5 stories you get throughout the movie, and then it bookends to wrap around the original story. Mm-hmm. And there's a jack-o'-lantern in the window. That's like the only reference to Halloween. So you think that maybe this story is being set around Halloween.
Sure.
But other than that, no, there's no reference to Halloween in any of the 5 short stories that are presented to you. But it's got anyone who's a fan of George A. Romero, I don't know if you like zombie movies, but he did Night of the Living Dead, the original, the OG, Dawn of the Dead, the original one. He's did Martin, which is a pretty good vampire movie from the 70s. And then he did The Dark Half, which is another Stephen King adaptation. And the last thing he did that I think anyone listening to this would know is Land of the Dead back in 2005.
Yep.
But lately, I mean, obviously George died like 5 years ago, but he just did zombie movies from 2005 on, and they get kind of progressively okay. Not really same old shtick. Nothing really new to say.
Yeah. How many times can you comment on society?
Not much. But it's got one of the best soundtracks for like a Halloween. It's not a Halloween like movie, but I think of this soundtrack whenever I think of Halloween. It's just so creepy. But okay, here we go. That's the main Creepshow theme.
Sounds
It's very
you get the I call them hippity hops of the piano.
Yep.
And the strings, which you get a lot with Danny Elfman.
Yep.
Scores.
Yep.
Not that he did that for that movie, but yeah, that feel.
Yep.
A lot of strings, a lot of bass piano sounds.
Yep. But the music in the movie is just great. So you have that to open it up, and then each story has its own like theme music to it, which gives it its own like sense of originality. But anyway, there's 5 stories. The first one, it's called Father's Day. It's got Ed Harris in it. Before Ed Harris became Ed Harris, I guess he knew George Romero because I guess Ed Harris is from Pittsburgh and George Romero is from Pittsburgh, and he has like a little part in that story. He does a really funny dance. So if you ever watch this movie, just remember that he's dancing in the. It's pretty bad.
So not to get sidetracked, you said anthology movies don't do well.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay.
Do you have a theory why? Because here's some past anthology. You have Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
You have Creepshow. You have more recently The French Dispatch, Wes Anderson's most recent movie. That was an anthology movie.
All right.
You had framed around the magazine The French Dispatch, and each had 3 stories. And then you had Sin City was an anthology movie, which Sin City did pretty well.
It did pretty well. That's because the visuals were like
visuals,
unique.
And then you had, I think, a couple of the characters that kind of hopped through the stories. But you had 4 rooms that didn't really do too well.
No. Which I like a lot. I do like that.
I've still yet to see it.
I like it a lot. I'm just a fan of anthology, and that one's different too because Tim Roth is in each story.
Yeah, so
he connects
has
all
the
4.
single. He's a continuous thread.
Creepshow doesn't do that.
Yeah,
they're all separate. There's no one single thread except for the bookend. But
so I think the reason why my personal idea is anthology movies don't do too well is because usually there's one story that people like.
Yes.
And then the other 2 are like,
okay.
Okay. But if it's the first one, like for Sin City, for me, I think it was Bruce Willis's story. I think that was the first story, and then I think you had the Assassins. Josh Hartnett's piece was the second one, and then you had the Cannibal, I think, in the third one. I think that was the correct order.
The Mickey Rourke story?
Yeah. Or maybe it was Mickey, I don't know. I remember sitting in the theater watching it, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty good. And then after the first story ended, the second one I was like, okay. And then the third one started, I was like, Jesus Christ. I was like, all right.
You're looking at your watch?
Yeah, I was like, let's fucking wrap it up. And I think that's probably what a lot of other people may feel, and I could just be projecting, but I think that might be the case to where people tend to gravitate to one story to where, or they get hooked on one story and then it's over and they're like, and
I
maybe
want more of that.
Yeah, I want more of that. Now I got to watch this, and it probably tends to leave a bad taste in someone's mouth.
Right. It's a better medium is probably TV. Like if you're to watch it on TV versus going to the theater and watching it. You're probably right. There's some truth to that. But I'm not like that. I enjoy anthologies. I like short stories like that.
Because you're a psychopath.
Probably.
Yes.
Hey, there's psychopaths in this world, Jay.
There are.
Yeah.
They have feelings too.
But there's Father's Day. Then there's the something Jordy Farrell's untimely death. Anyway, Stephen King plays the main character in that, and he just hams it up. He's very
coked
hammy
out.
and coked out, being all Stephen King. Then you got Something to Tide You Over, which has Leslie Nielsen in it with Ted Danson.
Is it a comedy?
No. Well, this is before Leslie Nielsen was in The Naked Gun. I mean, people knew him for comedies. Before he was like a serious actor in drama.
Okay, so it was back to him being drama because Airplane came out in '80, so that was his first bit as comedy. So he's back to doing his serious stuff.
I think at that time, people saw him in Airplane, but they still thought that he was
as a dramatic actor.
He's like, it's Leslie Nielsen, the dramatic actor, and then Ted Danson wasn't even in Cheers yet, so he was still relatively unknown. And then the 4 stories, The Crate, which has Hal Holbrook in it, who I love. He's an awesome actor, and it's a story about this guy who has this overbearing wife. he's very proper. He's a professor. His wife is this drunk who just berates him and belittles him at parties and says he has a tiny penis. And just, like, why is this guy putting up with this shit? So the crate is a story of the department that he works at in college. There's a crate underneath the stairs that happens to have like this monster in it. So his whole purpose is to get his wife to the the school so he can feed her to the monster. It's fucking great. It's got this cool daydreaming sequence too, where he'll start daydreaming about ways to kill his wife. Mm-hmm. There's this one scene where he just takes a gun out at the party and he's like, Wilma, shoots her right in the head and she dies. And then everybody at the party just turns real creepy at him and they start to like, and one guy's like, hell of a shot.
Internal fantasy stuff.
And then one great lady's like, bullseye. But I got a clip here from that, which pretty much illustrates. And the acting's like, it's not going to win an Oscar. It's the perfect like amount of ham to it.
So set this clip up really quick. Which story is this from?
This is from The Crate.
Okay.
Where Hal Holbrook is now attempting to feed his wife to the monster underneath the stairs, and it's not working.
Okay.
And then she just ramps up the abuse to him to where you just feel sorry for the guy. And anyway, here we go.
Your own shadow. You know what, Henry? You're a regular barnyard exhibit. Sheep's eyes, chicken guts, piggy friends, and shit for brains. No good at departmental politics. No good at making money. No good at making an impression on anybody. And no good at all in bed. When was the last time you got it up, Henry? Huh? When was the last time you were a man in our bed? Now get out of my way, Henry, or I swear to God you'll be wearing your balls for earrings. And I swear to God, if you ever touch me again...
Anyway, the monster comes out of the crate and chews her head off. So
good. She is not a nice person.
She is not. She's not a very good wife. She's very mean to him.
Moral of the story, ladies. Treat your husbands with kid gloves and kindness. Buy them flowers.
Yes.
Rub their feet when they get home.
Yes. Make them dinner. When they ask for a sandwich, just get in there and make it for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cut the crust off.
That's
or
right.
Cut it in triangles.
That's right.
It's easier to eat.
That's right. Don't want your man to choke.
Yeah.
Yeah. That scene's great because Hal Holbrook, his face, you just feel so bad for the guy. And then when it comes up, and when the monster comes out, you're just kind of like rooting, like, yeah, I like it. But so Tom Savini did the makeup in it too.
Oh, nice.
I love Tom Savini. He's just a great makeup artist. But the movie's not particularly gory. Just that one story. Yeah, there's some. It's pretty gory on when the monster like eats the guy's neck and all that stuff. But the other stories they're kind of bloodless. There's not a lot of blood in the movie itself. And then the movie ends on a story. I remember E.G. Marshall, the guy who played the uncle in Christmas Vacation.
Yeah,
I gotta eat so I can take my back pill. He's got a car. He can drive. I gotta eat. Anyway, E.G. Marshall's a really, again, he was a dramatic actor before that, and he was in like 12 Angry Men. He's been in a lot of. He's a very serious actor. He plays a recluse germaphobe who owns like a company, and he's like a multimillionaire, and he talks down to people. He gets really racist in the movie for whatever reason. So you want awful things to happen to this guy. He's a germaphobe, and his apartment gets infested by cockroaches. So it's just a good one-man performance, and it's like 15 minutes long, and the way it ends is like pretty gnarly, and it caps it off great to where you end the movie like, okay, I saw some pretty cool shit, and then it ended on like the note where you're like, wow, that's like seeing that the makeup in that scene alone for 1982 probably would have been like, Jesus.
So it kind of ended on like a crescendo.
Crescendo,
almost.
yeah, for sure.
Nice.
Yeah. It's a great movie, though. It's entertaining. I know you're not a big horror fan, but I think you'd like it just because it's...
And so there's 5 short stories?
Yeah.
That's actually quite... What is it, 2 hours long?
Hour and 45 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right. So each one's about 15, 20 minutes?
Except for the crate. It's like 40 minutes. It's the longest one. But it's cool because George Romero tries to do comic book like framing, and he has like cutouts to where it looks like a comic book frame, and his transitions are like flipping pages. So visually, it looks kind of cool. For 82, it looks good, but now it may seem a little cheesy, but I can appreciate it.
See, I wouldn't mind if they did that and they aired it on TV. Like I feel like
it's on AMC
and
like every year.
Okay. Making anthology movies like that to where it doesn't necessitate its own series. It doesn't need an American Horror Story anthology or like a whole season to drag out the story. It doesn't need a whole 50-minute, 40-minute episode. But like if you get like a well-known director, it'd almost just be fun, I feel like, for some horror directors or directors who haven't done horror would like to do experimental short stories like that, to where I'm surprised there's not a market of. Well, do a 2-hour movie.
There is a Creepshow show.
Oh, is there?
It's like 2 seasons. It's on like Apple or something.
Oh, okay.
It's a streaming service I don't have, so I've never checked it out.
Well, I meant just like a self-contained 2-hour. Hey, we got Denis Villeneuve.
Oh, you mean like a special?
Yeah. Oh, just because they used to do TV Movie of the Weeks, which they really don't do anymore. But
well, I think Marvel and Disney Plus just did that. Werewolf by Night did like a special werewolf movie. It's like 50 minutes long. Michael Giacchino directed it. The guy did all the awesome music in Pixar movies.
Yeah, all the memorable music.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I haven't seen it yet, but just you saying that reminded me of that.
Werewolf by Night.
Werewolf by Night. Anywho.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you'd like it.
Oh,
I think you'd be entertained.
I think I'll watch it this month.
There you go. It'll put you in the mood.
Yeah.
It's not scary at all. You won't be scared.
Well, I'm not afraid of being scared.
I'm not afraid of anything.
I'm not afraid. God damn it! Don't pay me as a pussy. Shit. I only piss myself 3 times a day, not 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll check it out. Has Christy seen it? Do you know?
I don't think so.
No.
Maybe she has. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not regular viewing for her.
And that was your number 3.
My number 3.
Number 3. All right. My number 2 is a Tim Burton movie.
Ooh.
This is probably, I don't know. Like overall, like I don't know. Beetlejuice is really good, but I picked the Sleepy Hollow.
Ooh.
Came out in '99. So
that's a good movie.
Different genres. This is a mystery.
Yep.
Halloween movie.
It is.
And it's written by Andrew Kevin Walker, who did Seven. So it has that Finchian kind of mystery that we really don't get too often. But directed by Tim Burton, great acting everywhere. And you have Johnny Depp, Michael Gambon, Michael Goff, who was Alfred in the Batman movies. You had Richard Griffiths, who is notably in Harry Potter. He played Uncle Vernon.
Yep.
You have Casper Van Dien, who was
remember him?
Yeah, in Starship Troopers. You have Miranda Richardson. Christopher Lee is in this.
Yeah.
And Christina Ricci.
Yes. Our schoolboy crushes.
Yes. And but I mean,
Christina Ricci makes the list twice, huh?
Yep.
There you go.
If anyone could, it would definitely be her. So, but it's fun. It's moody. The design, I think. I want to say this is probably one of Tim Burton's better movies. It's not my. I haven't even thought about ranking Tim Burton movies. Yeah. I know I like Big Fish a lot. And that's just because I really connected with the story. But as far as, I feel like this is probably one of his better ones. The color palette in this, it's very muted, which listeners, if you've seen Sleepy Hollow, because every time I think about this movie, I think of it being in black and white, but it's not black and white.
No.
And it's just very muted colors. And they're desaturated, and but watch the trailer. Go look it up on YouTube, the Sleepy Hollow trailer. They punched up those colors hardcore.
Oh, did they really?
Oh, God, yes. And because I watched the trailer for it, I was like, it wasn't that colorful. And then I looked up a scene online, and I was like, yeah, it was muted. Because it was like everyone's just like pale, like the skin tones are almost white. It has like a slight hint of flesh color, but everything is just so desaturated. There's like the blues are very gray. Everything is just very gray. And I feel like, I mean, the mood, it's just a good, well-made film as far as consistent art style, the Victorian setting, the set design. It's not overly Tim Burton. You could see some of his elements, but it's kind of set. It feels almost like a play, like you're watching a play. You can tell the set design. Nothing feels overtly real. It all kind of feels like it's on a stage, which isn't a bad thing. Sometimes it is a bad thing when you kind of tell that. But I mean, I'm sure they shot this on location and everything else, but it has a very play-like feel to it. But great mystery.
It is a really good mystery.
Yeah, and that's it. Obviously,
that's Andrew Kevin Walker.
Yeah, Sleepy Hollow. It obviously takes place on Halloween, but yeah,
it's probably the least Tim Burton-esque movie that he's ever made. Now that I think about it, just in terms of like wild colors and then the characters being crazy and
and I mean he has a couple of his Tim Burton-esques in there, like Ichabod Crane's devices, like his glasses, like you have some weird contraptions that he kind of pulls out, but yeah, it's very reserved, and which I think makes the movie better, just because when you constrain yourself, you tend to. I mean, he relies heavily on editing, shot composition, color palette. He relies on all that other stuff because he can't be over the top with the goofiness. Christopher Walken's character design, awesome. The serrated teeth.
It's pretty sweet.
And
what a gnarly makeout scene he has there at the end.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. That's a nasty image, man.
If I could find someone to kiss me like Christopher Walken and Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah. Passion's all there, baby. I want blood in the mouth.
But I think it's a good mystery horror.
It is.
It's got some creepy scenes in it. But it's I think it's good. I mean, just acting's good. It's a good. It feels very Halloween-y to me.
Yeah.
It's one of the first movies I think of when I think of Halloween. And
when I first saw it, I thought they were doing an adaptation of the Ichabod and Mr. Toad.
Oh, yeah.
The Halloween, the Walt Disney cartoon that we watched when we were growing up as kids. No, it's not that.
No.
It's a little more adult than that. I think that's why it surprised me when I first saw it. I was just I wasn't expecting like a murder mystery story. I thought it was gonna be like a ghost story. Which is why I think it's just better. I love when movies do that where you don't anticipate that turn in it at all. And if I would have known, Andrew Kevin Walker wrote the script, then okay, maybe that would have hinted that okay, we're in for like a little mystery here.
And because I think this movie came out around the same time as the Brothers Grimm, the Matt Damon and Heath Ledger movie.
This came out in
99.
And then the Brothers Grimm, I think, in like 2005.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, a little bit later.
All right. I drank a lot.
It's okay.
What's
6 years?
Nothing. Blink of an eye.
It just goes by.
Like that.
Just like that.
But I always think of that movie, too, whenever I think of this movie. Because, I mean, you have Ichabod, who's more, the more logical.
Yeah.
To where he's picking apart things where, it's supernatural. Like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Let's think about this like people.
Yeah.
So.
How much acting do you think Johnny Depp is doing in this movie, though? He does.
Well, based on what I don't know. I mean,
based on the Amber Heard trial.
He's doing phenomenal.
He's doing
acting
really
in this
damn
movie.
good. Yeah.
I mean, it's not a typical. He does some Deppisms, like when he kind of gets grossed out, because I don't think he's a fan of like gore.
Yeah.
In this movie, his character, and to where he does some like depth facial expressions and stuff like that. But
his facial expressions remind me of like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory when he gets grossed out in that movie, like his little ticks. Yeah.
And which I don't think they didn't. It makes sense though. I mean, you don't want him to be over the top because you're following his character. And if he's too cartoony, like he can't be the most interesting character in a mystery, because typically in decent mysteries, you want the relatable person figuring out the mystery along with the audience. So but I do not have an answer for your question as far as how much acting.
It was a stupid question.
No, it's not a stupid question. I just provided a stupid answer.
And it's fine.
Quit rubbing my leg.
Rub higher.
A little higher. But that's my number 2. Sleepy Hollow.
Nice. I like it. That's a great movie. I do like that movie a lot. All right, my number 2 is Trick or Treat.
Hey, I've never seen it.
Oh. Damn it, I was happy there for a second. Hey, is that your number 1?
Nope.
Nah, well, in keeping with my anthology theme here, Trick or Treat is another anthology movie.
Okay.
It's about Halloween, strictly about Halloween. It takes place on Halloween. It's the antagonist in it, Sam, is overseeing the 4 stories in the movie, and bad things happen to people that don't abide by the traditions of Halloween.
Okay.
And bad things happen to those people. So of all the movies on my list, this is the movie that is a movie about and for Halloween.
Okay.
Without a doubt. But why do I like it so much? It feels so original. I know it's an anthology, but they don't make movies like this anymore when it comes to just having fun. Mm-hmm. It's just a fun movie.
Okay.
It's not overtly gory or scary just to be gory or scary. It's just trying to tell you an entertaining story with maybe some cool visuals, some cool antagonists, some pretty sweet stories. So this movie in particular has 4 stories instead of 5 like Creepshow, but this movie's shorter. It's like an hour and a half. It's nothing, it's not 2.5 hours or anything. And all the stories connect to one another. Okay. So it's not separate stories. It's in the same universe. And the ending of it is kind of cool where it kind of goes back to the beginning of the movie. It's just a nice little surprise. You're not really expecting it to do that. Mm-hmm. But Brian Cox is in it.
Hey.
Dylan Baker.
Hey.
Hey. Anna Paquin's in it.
Nice.
And yeah, nice. And then Sam Rockwell's wife. What's her name?
Oh, Jesus.
Leslie Bibb.
Okay.
Leslie Bibb's in it. She's in the very beginning of it. But Brian Cox's story is great. It caps it off. It's a wacky encounter with Sam, the main antagonist. So Sam is essentially like a jack-o'-lantern that's alive. Mm-hmm. And his murder weapon is like a popsicle that's like carved out with a sharp edge. That's what he murders people with.
Popsicle?
It's like a lollipop. It's like one of those thick those giant lollipops.
I wish we had video and I just caught you. It's like a lollipop. Yeah. And I'm like, that's how you eat lollipops?
Why did I do that? Damn it.
Hot dog to mouth, never mouth to hot dog.
Yeah. But it's kind of cool because it's shaped with the sharp edge from a bite mark.
Okay.
So it's like a weapon in that sense. So it's got like a cool werewolf story in it. It's got like a psychopathic neighbor story in it, and that's played by Dylan Baker.
Hey.
And Dylan Baker's awesome in it.
Oh, yeah.
He's
awesome. Another one of those character actors that's just great.
He's
in
very
he
good.
does.
I got a clip of him in here. Him and Brian Cox interacting. It's pretty great. And then an awesome school bus ghost story.
Okay.
So it's just fun. It surprised me when it came out. It was delayed for 2 years. The studio didn't want to release it. They didn't think it was going to be very good. And normally when that happens, the story's pretty shit, or they just don't believe in it.
Yeah.
So when it finally got released, it went straight to video, didn't go into theaters, and I just rented it at a Blockbuster one day. Yeah, Blockbuster. Remember those things when you actually used to go in the store and...
No.
So I rented it.
When did it come out?
2007.
Okay.
Sorry, 2008 you could rent it. They made it in 2007.
Got ya.
Anyway, rented it, and I was just... It's one of those nice things where you're not expecting much, and it turns out way better than you thought it would.
Okay.
This is the movie I think of.
So it's good story. That's the crux of it, is story, not so much the gore or...
It's not that gory.
Okay.
Really, not at all. Just the production design, the visuals, the music's pretty cool. It's got a pretty sweet soundtrack. The performances are great. It's fast. It doesn't drag at all. It's all on Halloween. It's just a nice
I'm gonna have to
experience.
check that out. I mean, Brian Cox and Dylan Baker's kind of sold it on me.
You would like it.
Yeah.
It's not like a horror movie like the one that you wouldn't like.
Mm-hmm.
You would like it. Yeah, Christy would like it too.
Oh, yeah.
You could convince her to sit down and watch it with you. But it was almost my number one, but it didn't make the top of the list. But this is the movie I think about when I think of Halloween. Kind of like when I think of Christmas, I think of Christmas Vacation. That's the movie I want to watch. I think of Trick or Treat just because it's in the title.
Okay.
And it's it's in keeping with the holiday.
Mm-hmm.
But I got an awesome clip here to show Dylan Baker and Brian Cox interacting because they are two of my favies.
Stephen Wilkins.
Hi. What in God's name are you doing down there, Wilkins? Huh? Hiding bodies? What'd you say?
Nothing. It's the septic tank is acting up.
Is that what that smell is?
I'm afraid so.
Then fix it. It stinks like a dead whore out here.
I'm trying.
Get your kid out of my yard! Goddamn freak.
Happy Halloween.
Screw you!
I realized I should have set up that scene.
I'm kind of glad you
Damn
did it because my mind was just racing as far as like, are they beating it? Is he killing a kid or something? It's like
He is.
Okay.
So Dylan Baker's a serial killer in the movie, and he's burying a trick-or-treater in the backyard and trying to hide it from his neighbor.
Okay.
Brian Cox is his neighbor. Yeah. Brian Cox is like a recluse. He hates Halloween, which is in keeping with the story because Sam is enforcing Halloween tradition, so he does not like Mr. Krieg in the movie.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a great movie. I recommend it. It's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah. I think you'll like it.
I think I like it too. My number one, this will also be in my top 5 horror.
It is.
There is no way getting around it.
Okay.
And this is my horror entry. So kind of leading up, I had, what did I have? I had the comic book Revenge Action with the Crow. I had the family comedy Casper as number 4.
Yeah.
I had a sci-fi drama with Donnie Darko number 3.
Yeah,
and a mystery / horror suspense with Sleepy Hollow. And my number 1 is just straight horror, The Exorcist.
Wow.
And which actually takes place around Halloween. So
it does. Yeah.
It doesn't overtly say it in the movie, but it's there enough to where it just kind of adds to it if you're paying attention.
Yeah.
I am going to, and when I say The Exorcist, I say the director's cut. So
I haven't seen the director's cut in a long time.
There has been several instances of this. William Friedkin, who directed it, he edited a TV version for it, which I'm sure I had seen at one point. I had seen the theatrical cut, and I've seen the director's cut. I think the director's cut, they switched out some of the sound effects to more modern sound effects, and I think it just works obviously a little bit better. The first movie was made in 1973. I am not big on going back and redoing some things, but I think for this movie it works. It just kind of updates it a little bit. Some older sound effects can just sound goofy, and if it takes you out of the movie, then it takes you out of the movie. But I think it works for this. That, and I'm not so in love with this movie that you ruin the art. Believe me, I am totally like that on some other films, to where just don't fucking touch it. You just leave it. Because,
like Back to the Future.
like Back to the Future, which thank God they haven't done anything with that.
Yeah.
But like E.T., Star Wars, just quit fucking around with it.
Didn't they do a special edition for E.T., like enhancing the effects?
What they did was they replaced. There was a version that came out, I want to say in the 2000s. It was either the 25th, maybe 25th or 20th anniversary. They removed the cops carrying the shotguns.
You told me about this.
Yeah,
yes.
when the kids all go up in their bikes. Spoiler alert, when the Jedi lifts up all the kids and they replaced it with flashlights. Yeah. And people didn't like that. Yeah, and I was like, I didn't like it either. And then the next version, it's either the 20th or 30th anniversary edition, they put the guns back in.
Jay, you're like, give them bazookas.
Yeah, fucking...
Give some AKs.
Get a goddamn minigun on there and just spray down those kids. Get that fucking alien. But I would say director's cut. There's a couple of extra scenes in there. The infamous spider walk is in the director's cut. I think it works great. And I want to say, and I don't know if I'm projecting, I feel like this movie is a little bit scarier if you come from a somewhat religious background.
Oh yeah, I would think so.
Or have any kind of understanding of religion. I mean, you don't have to necessarily be Christian, but either coming from a family of faith or being surrounded by people who are of faith. Just I feel like it hits a little bit harder. But I don't know. This is considered probably one of the scariest movies ever made, and it came out in the 70s. Which, I mean, I don't know how in touch with God everybody was in 73. That was before my time.
Maybe more so than now.
Yeah, but
it's almost 50 years old.
Yeah, but I have a feeling just kind of being aware of religion or that kind of thing just makes it feel more of the possibility of it being real.
Yep.
But The Exorcist, if you don't know, it's like a 12 or 13-year-old girl gets possessed, and the mother gets two priests to try and help her daughter. She does
drive it out.
Yeah, and some things that I think this movie did very, very well ahead of the time. They tried to explain it by science to where things were happening to her. She goes into like a very primitive like MRI or CAT scan, some kind of machine to see inside of her head to see if it's psychological. She talks to a psychiatrist. They're trying to explain it logically. And I think this was one of the first movies that had this kind of a storyline as far as a demon possessing another person.
By the way, would you want to go to the hospital back in 73 after watching this movie? The fucking machines and just like, get the fuck out of here. That was scarier than the demon.
The magnet shit. And that's another good thing is like the normal things, like when they're trying to find out, even that's scary. Like the whole situation is scary. And it's been a while since I've seen this movie. I don't think I've seen it since I've had kids.
Okay.
So I'd be interested to see if I more relate to, because before I was fascinated just by the situation.
Right.
And I was probably putting myself into the younger priest's shoes when I was watching this, to where I wonder if I watch it again, if I would be putting myself more into the mother's shoes. And kind of relating to it that way, to where just her feeling of helplessness of not being able to help her child or not understanding what's going on because her family isn't religious at all.
Yeah.
And so it's that much more of an alien concept to her.
Well, to your point, me and Nicole watched this about a month ago, and I was totally in the mother's shoes.
Yeah?
Yeah. Definitely.
Is it because she wore heels?
Yes.
Okay.
I love those heels.
Hey.
Nice 6 inches.
Yep.
You know? Get the butt nice and high.
Hey, Helen Birkin.
Oh, yeah.
She can bring it.
She can.
It's got a couple of jump scares, but Yeah, as I said before, the whole situation's scary. I mean, yeah, the trip to the hospital. They use great tech. I mean, just flash frames.
Yep.
And of just, if you pause it, it's not necessarily a scary image, but just
yes.
There's so many tricks that William Friedkin did. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, I would say watch it. And it holds up. Christy doesn't. She
can't watch it.
She can if I'm there.
Right.
But she's not.
No.
She's not like she loves scary movies, but that's one of those movies that she's like she will not watch alone, and it was made 50 years ago.
I know. It's definitely not as scary today as it was when I was like 12 when I first saw it.
Correct.
But it's still very good, and it's just a great script. The dialogue in between, like, because I'm older now, and I the situation, the possession scenes when you're younger, you're like, oh, I can't. Let's go to the possession scene, the next one.
Yeah.
But here, I watched it a month ago. I like the dialogue in between the scenes of the actual possession piece of it. It's entertaining. It moves the story along. It's well written.
Yep.
It seems like real, like a real conversation the two people would have in that situation.
You have three stories. You have the mother trying to help her daughter. You have the young priest dealing with his faith, with surrounding the events because his mother's sick. So he's having trouble. He's doubting his faith. And then you have Max von Sydow as an older priest who it's kind of more of not a vendetta with them, but just more of like he's aware of that demon existing. And which he was 44 in this movie.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
And
they make him like he's 75.
Yeah, it's this movie that, because I thought he was 75, 80. First time I saw this, and then I keep seeing his name in movies coming out.
Like 40 years later.
40 years later, I'm like, how's that guy fucking alive? It's But the practical effects.
Oh, very
for
good.
1973, fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, the bed scenes, the levitating, like all this stuff was very, very well done, and I think a lot of it kind of holds up again, which is why I say the director's cut. They removed some of the wires that you could kind of see in the original version, and stuff like that would be more apparent with Blu-ray releases and more high def transfers that you could actually see. They removed those. But also something else, the story feels smaller. Like it feels like a very intimate story. And I was thinking about that today to why that is. And I think it's because it takes place in it takes place in the DC area and I think Georgetown area.
Yep.
And it's very populated. It's in a house that's right next to another house. And I think that kind of helps making the story feel smaller because no one else is aware of what's going on. I mean, some of the doctors, but the doctors brush it off as, oh, it's a mental thing or whatever. And to where I think it makes the story feel like those characters are more alone than what they actually are because they're surrounded by all these people that are completely oblivious to where you have other horror films like The Conjuring or something like that, to where it usually takes that place in a remote area, to where that's the whole world, is that whole setting.
Gotcha.
To where their whole world is the world, and it's just them in their house.
Yeah. There's people all around them.
Yeah.
Not really caring.
But I thought that was interesting, and I don't think that was intentional. I think it was just
a byproduct.
A byproduct and observation that I noticed, to where I was like, yeah, there's not a whole lot of horror movies happening to where there's a bunch of other, I mean, Poltergeist, The Conjuring Part 2 as kind of more populated areas, but a lot of them are like just very remote places to where, which they do that to add to the tension of the scene or the setting, is because, there's nowhere to go.
There's nowhere to go. Yep.
But in this scene, there are places to go, but it wouldn't help because you need, it's not going to, we can move. The demon's in the child. It's not in the house.
Yeah. I would love to time travel and see this in the theater in 73.
Yeah.
Couldn't imagine. My dad tells me stories when he took one of his girlfriends to go see it, and he had to leave with her because she didn't want to sit in the theater anymore. She was so freaked out. I mean, it is a movie like that. I couldn't imagine yeah, something they've never seen before. That's for sure.
Yeah. So that's my number one.
It's a good pick.
Thank you.
Picking a classic movie.
Hold on.
They won multiple Oscars.
Oh, you did? For your number one?
No. The Exorcist. Yeah. It's one of the all-time greatest movies ever made. Yeah.
That's what I do.
That's what you do.
I pick an easy.
Yeah.
No one's gonna argue that number one.
No. What am I gonna say? That movie sucks. Exorcist sucks. My number one is in the name of this list. It was no question when we.
Yep.
Yeah, it's Halloween.
Yep.
1978, not 2018, and not 2007, the Rob Zombie remake.
the white trash.
Which fucking ruined the whole mystique. Never give Mike Myers a backstory with a childhood. I'm like, stop it.
Yeah.
What are you doing? That's what made the first movie so great.
Well, that
you didn't know that stuff.
And before we get into this, Rob Zombie has a horrible habit of. I've seen the Rob Zombie Halloween movies, and I haven't seen a lot of his movies, but the movies that I have seen, I don't like his characters.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't. I mean, you can do that, but it doesn't help your product because you need to have a character that you like, and there's not a single person in that movie
it's likable.
Like you have the stepdad that's oogling his 16-year-old stepdaughter's ass, and then the mother's like, "Oh, you pervert," and just like slaps. I'm like, really? That's it?
Yeah.
It's like all of you people are horrible people.
Yeah, that's very true.
But anyways, yes, Halloween 1970.
That's right. Let's listen to this, can we? Just to set the mood.
No. Banging beats, getting broads, then we're gonna go trick-or-treating with the feet and the feet. Stab a bitch in the face, get your eyes on your blades. Here we go, messing that.
Oh, that's good, Jay. I didn't realize you're gonna bust a freestyle.
Yeah, that was probably the worst.
That was terrible. I feel weird now. Thank you.
Yeah, I can only rhyme things with eat.
Yeah, eat, beat,
feet, street.
Go down the alphabet.
Yeah,
so good. But it's the best theme. Movie theme. I think it's my favorite movie theme of all time. At least it's one of the most recognizable ones. But just the music alone is what I think of when I think of Halloween. It's I just love it. It's so good. I could listen to it in the car just because it's awesome.
John Carpenter did that.
He did.
Song. Yep.
He composed it, yeah. I just like the whole story of how this movie was made and how low budget it was and how they had no money. They went down to the street for the Michael Myers mask at the hardware store because the production designer was like, oh, yeah, we need a mask. So he brought back a clown mask and a William Shatner mask. And John Carpenter said, we're not making a clown movie, so let's, I guess the Shatner mask, do something with it. And then he just painted it white.
Spray paint it white.
Right. He made the eyes bigger, and then he spray painted it white. Obviously, that's a lucky aspect. They didn't consciously say, okay, we're gonna have him wear this in XYZ, and it just kind of just happened. But everything after that, the filming techniques he had in it with the POV to open up the movie, the fact that it's set in a neighborhood that seems like a neighborhood I grew up in. Like, oh, yeah, I know that neighborhood. That's my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Which gives it that creepy factor, like, holy shit, this
could be anywhere.
I know. I don't like this. The fact that the killer, Michael Myers doesn't say anything. He doesn't have a personality. You can put whatever you want onto him. Jamie Lee Curtis is great in it. For, like, her first time acting, she's really good. She's, like, vulnerable and seems like that girl next door you would care about and root for.
Yeah, she has growth too throughout the story to where she's not a Billy badass right out the bat. And
and just the long tracking shots of them walking the neighborhood, so you get a sense of like where you are and just how spread out it is and where he could be hiding anywhere. The stupid like high school conversations they have in the backdrop is kind of sets the tone a little bit. Just the scenes of him stalking everybody, from the little boy that gets pushed to him stalking Lori. Because I think he doesn't even kill anybody for the first hour. just him stalking people and popping up out of bushes or whatever, and kind of giving you that eerie sensing atmosphere.
Yep.
And knowing they did all that with like $40,000 with no time, and they were like, "Hey John, we need you to do a movie about a guy in a mask killing babysitters," and that's what came out of it. Like one of the best movies ever made.
Yeah.
It's just an awesome story.
When you're constrained,
that's right. That's when the best comes out.
Yep.
And Donald Pleasance is awesome. He's fucking awesome. I love him.
The worst psychiatrist ever.
He really is. Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I thought about putting this in my top 5. The reason why I didn't is because up until maybe in the past 10 years, I never watched this movie. And now it's one of those I watch every year.
Yeah.
And it's, Chrissy is the reason. So
yeah.
She's like, "Oh, let's watch Halloween." And I'm like, all right. And it's very good. It has that fall feel.
Yeah, it does.
Like the crispness in the air. Leaves are falling. It takes place in a normal neighborhood. It feels like a fall movie, a Halloween style movie. You have one thing I like in the movie is when everyone's out trick-or-treating and you have a couple characters that are babysitting and they kind of feel secluded as far as, everything else is going on outside. And I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but it captures that feeling to where when you're sitting at home and there's trick-or-treaters going on outside, you're usually watching a movie, you're separated from that, but you're kind of a part of it at the same time. Kind of, you get what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
I like that aspect of the movie. Again, the POV and being able to set the tension with the camera movements and the actual filmmaking as opposed to cheap tactics.
Yep. And then coupling that with the music, his score is so good. He times it perfectly, and then that great shot of when Laurie finds all the dead bodies, and then Michael comes in out of the shadows with the white face. It's just an awesome image. I mean, it's like one of the few perfect movies. I think it's a perfect movie from start to finish. It's one of my favorite movies ever made. If I were to make a top 10 list, Halloween might make that list just because I like everything about it. And growing up, he was like the scariest thing to me because, I enjoy like Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Streets and like Child's Play, those 80s horror icons, but they didn't really like scare me.
Well, because Halloween's real.
Right.
It could be real.
It could be real. It's a dude who escaped from a mental institution. He had like issues when he was a kid. And, like he doesn't say anything, and it's fucking scary. It always scared me as a kid, and I think part of that was because the setting of the neighborhood. It reminded me of my neighborhood, and it could be anywhere. And to me, that always was like terrifying.
Had the nightmare quality, which I think they put in a lot of slasher movies now. Did this come out before or after Friday the 13th?
Before.
Okay. Is this the first slasher?
No, there was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Okay.
But that wasn't a slasher.
Yeah, that was more of they went to the wrong house kind of a thing.
Yeah, wrong place, wrong time kind of thing.
Yeah, same thing with the Last House on the Left.
Yeah.
And to where I think as far as like someone who's actually like being a predator and going out and killing, I feel like this is probably one of the first.
There was another movie from like 71 or 2. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but that was the first masked killer movie, but it wasn't as popular as Halloween.
Yeah.
It's Halloween, because Halloween was so successful, that's what kicked off.
Yeah. And a lot of people took a lot of tropes from this movie. Like I call it the nightmare walk, which you have someone just running, trying to get away, and then the killer's just slowly walking.
Yes.
Like how it happens in your nightmares, to where if you're running from somebody, but you just can't get away, and it doesn't seem to be. And
that's another thing Carpenter does so well in this movie. He builds the tension, like, because Michael is so slow and Laurie's running away, and then when she's on the door knocking, like, let me in, she just keeps looking over. And he's putting you in the place of her. Like, the whole time you're thinking,
is he there yet?
Where the fuck is he?
Is he there yet?
Is he there yet? Yeah. And he's so fucking slow. But it's great. Here, let's talk. Let's have a little Donald Pleasance here.
Yeah.
I want some of Donald in my life.
I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left. No reason, no conscience, no understanding, and even the most rudimentary sense of life or death, of good or evil, right or wrong. I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
It's great.
You know what I just remembered?
What's that?
From hearing that? I was like, that sounds a lot like Quint's speech.
From Jaws?
From Jaws, talking about the shark. Those black eyes like a doll's eyes.
The doll's eyes. Yeah.
I got a lot of those vibes.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. You notice what he does there, like Carpenter?
Mm-hmm.
The music comes in. Dun,
Yep.
like, I mean, it's just awesome. I mean, he's really good. Here's the, by the way, the... let me find it here. It ends so well.
What's the boogeyman?
As a matter of fact, it was.
Can't get any better than that. It's such a good last line. Anyway, that's my number one. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, and I'll own Halloween movies. It's just one of those perfect movies that I love each time I watch it. Never gets old.
Yeah, I had that as my honorable mention. I figured you were probably going to have it in yours, and I didn't know if I was going to have it in my horror list or not.
Mm-hmm.
Just because when I watched it, I wasn't that. It didn't scare me, so
okay.
I'm going to be picking movies that
scare you.
Me.
Okay, that's fair.
But no, it feels like Halloween when you watch it.
Yeah,
the setting, the set design, just the weather, just all the tiny stuff. But Hocus Pocus I had on honorable mention.
I did too. Yep.
E.T. But I also had, a lot of others that I thought about including just don't even take place on Halloween. They're just more scary films. And
I had like all the classic like Nightmare on Elm Street.
Mm-hmm.
I'll watch those but normally only on Halloween or September going up to it. And I like Dream Warriors more than the original one just because it's so goofy and imaginative, which is what I think of Freddy Krueger. I really like Tales from the Crypt Demon Night. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Mm-mm.
It's got Billy Zane in it. Billy Zane's in it. And Jada Pinkett. It's one of those movies that people just haven't... It came out in 95. It was the first like Tales from the Crypt movie that came out. It's just fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's something I'll throw on for Halloween. Pet Sematary creeps me out a lot.
Never seen that.
The mood in that movie is...
Christy brought that up to where, have you seen Pet Sematary? I was like, no. She's like, ooh, we'll have to watch that.
Yeah,
so.
It's pretty creepy. Miko Hughes, the kid who is in Kindergarten Cop. Boys have penises, girls have vaginas.
That was the first thing I thought of.
He plays the kid in it. It's so tragic because he dies in a car wreck or like a semi truck.
Like in real life or
no, in the movie.
Oh, okay.
Because they live on like a busy road and he's like a little 5-year-old kid and he wanders into the road and dies.
Mm-hmm.
Even now thinking about it, it's just fucking heavy material. And then he comes back and it's creepy as fuck, Jay. Just let me tell you.
Okay.
Fred Gwynn's in it, the guy who played Herman Munster. And he's in My Cousin Vinny.
Yeah, he plays the judge.
Yeah. He's good in it. So that's one I throw on Halloween all the time. I always watch The Shining on Halloween because I can only watch that movie like once a year because it is like.
And I thought about that movie but I was like, that's more of a winter. It's like
a December, January movie.
Yeah. When you're just snowed in.
Yeah, it is. And I thought of The Nightmare Before Christmas. But that straddles like I'll watch that during Christmas too if I want to.
Yeah, and I had trouble because I kept thinking, I was like, what feels like Halloween?
Yeah.
And like I was thinking of horror films and everything else, and that's I think what made it so tough is like, well, I don't want to repeat myself when we do the top 5 horror films, but at the same time, because that's the only time I really watch those kinds of movies. But it also doesn't. They're not Halloween. They're just horror films.
Yeah, they're just horror. Yeah. Horror.
I thought about Ghostbusters. But Ghostbusters, I watch any time of year.
Oh, yeah.
And I've never associated that with Halloween.
I haven't either.
Because when I was a kid, I watched it so many times, it didn't matter what time of year it was. It was like, do I want to watch Ghostbusters?
Let's watch Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Let's just watch it now.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
We'll be right back.
Yeah.
And we're back,
commentary.
so.
Still good.
It holds up.
It holds up great.
So... Yeah, that's our top 5. Let's review really quick.
Yeah.
Your number 5. Go from your number 5 to number 1.
Will do. Number 5, Casper. Number 4, Beetlejuice. 3, Creepshow. 2, Trick or Treat. And number 1, Halloween.
Awesome. Mine, number 5, The Crow. 4, Casper. 3, Donnie Darko. 2, Sleepy Hollow. And 1, The Exorcist.
It's a good list.
Yours as well. Stop rubbing my leg.
You love it.
Go higher. All right. Happy spooky October and Halloween and all that good stuff. So enjoy your scary movies, audience people. Join us next time as we review Halloween Ends. So that'll be next week. That comes out this weekend.
It does.
So we will talk about that. I have not seen Halloween Kills.
You haven't?
I haven't.
It's on HBO Max.
I think I've seen Halloween
2018. I think you've seen that at our place.
Yeah, I think I have. I might not have like sat all the way through, or I think I've seen the whole movie in 2 different sittings, kind of a thing. So, and I thought it's
pretty good.
Haven't seen Halloween Kills.
Okay.
But I'll watch Halloween Ends. Hopefully I won't miss too much. I'm looking forward to Judy Greer just rocking it in the movie.
Okay.
I know she dies in the
I was just
second
to say,
one,
I think he's fucking with me right now.
Like, when are they going to give that lady a break? Like, she just needs to be...
Never.
Just... She's great. Like...
Yeah.
Just...
She is
Stop
good.
killing her off. Stop her having be the best friend or a side character.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like she could carry a movie.
Yeah. I don't have high expectations for this movie.
No?
No.
Well, I don't either. So that's all right.
Because I don't like kills at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's. I'll wait. Before I give you my thoughts, I'll have you watch and see what you think. But I hope they have more Jamie Lee Curtis in this because I think she's great. She needs to be in more of the movie. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. I don't know what I'm going to expect. Based on the trailers, I have a feeling it's going to be like a boxing match almost. It'll just be Laurie Strode versus...
Rocky versus Mr. T?
Yeah. It's just going to be... I feel like it's just going to be those two going at it. I mean, obviously they'll have other stuff in there, but I feel like... I don't know. Which I hope there's something else in there.
I hope so too.
I don't know. It's like how many times can you do it? But I'm gonna go in there with an open mind. I have low expectations. Low
expectations, open mind.
Hey, set the bar low, and you could easily step right over it.
That's right. You sure can.
But yeah, that'll be next week. Halloween Ends.
That's right.
So yeah. Don't forget, comment on our episodes, write to our email if you have any questions, all that good stuff. And we will see you next week. Hope you guys enjoyed the show.
Until next time, Jay.
Until next time, Matt.